Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of our shooting show, and welcome to today's show. We have a great, beautiful fall day out here. We've had a couple of weeks of reruns. We've done some things hopefully to further our project. You know, friends, this is our 7th year here on the air, and we are indeed proud to be here. I tell you, days like they notice I'm out of my cooler shirts into some a little temperatures here were a little nippy this morning, and it's real nice out here today. We have a number of things we're going to be covering for you on today's program. We have a couple of news items, one of which is the Initiative 676 out in Washington State. And we know we have quite a few viewers out there in Washington State, and this was sent to us by the group called Citizens Against Regulatory Excess, or Washington Citizens Against Regulatory Excess, called We Care. And it says some of the things that this Initiative 676 would do to Washington State's 1 million handgun owners. Listen to this. It will register everyone in Washington who owns, possesses, or controls a handgun. It will require testing and licensing of anyone who merely possesses or controls a handgun, which means that someone living in your home with you may, it could include, say you have some in-laws or someone living in your home, but you occasionally move a handgun or something, or handle it. Well, guess what? You're in control of it. So even if you don't own a handgun and you come in contact with one, it may you may have to be tested and licensed. Listen to this. Requires a minimum 8-hour safety course for those who cannot pass the test to be developed. The test to be developed by the Department of Licensing. Spouses must be licensed if they control a handgun. Estimated cost is going to be $100 or more. Require Department of Licensing to develop the test and course and designate issuing agency. You know, friends, just like in New York City, theoretically it's possible to own a handgun in New York if you go through the licensing procedure, which may take you a year, 2 years, or never. See, when the government gets control and they start issuing licenses, and tell me something, we issued this challenge on last week's radio program on the American Freedom Network, which is incidentally from noon until 2 o'clock on Sunday on GE1 channel 7 5.8 audio on the American Freedom Network, our 2-hour talk show. We said, look, if anybody trusts the government, please call in. We want to talk to you. And one individual did call and say, yeah, I trust the government. He says, yeah, I trust them to accumulate more power and do more stuff against what we as freedom-loving people want. Think about it, friends. Just look at it. Do you trust the government? The government is just other people, people in offices. It is not like they told the Indians. They used to say the Great White Father in Washington. Well, that's baloney. That is nothing, you know, and we have to be careful because our language can get real colorful how we describe these people, but it's hard to find adequate terms that will describe some of the lunacy going on in governments. For instance, look what the government has done. Ask those people down in Waco, those 80 people that are dead now, you know, go out to the cemetery and ask them what they think about it. Ask Randy Weaver. He can still talk. Ask him what the government did. Ask all these people out here that the IRS has brutalized, some of the folks that ATF has brutalized. You know, ask some of the people that the Environmental Protection Agency has literally taken their land, inflicted huge amounts of grief on. Ask them. Do you even trust? Here in Louisiana, we have some serious problems about the highway department. Okay, do you trust the government? Do you trust other people with your rights and your liberties? I don't think so. They have proven over and over and over again they are not trustworthy. Who would you rather buy a used car from? Bobby's Bumper Shop down on the corner, or from your congressman, or from your senator, or from your president, or from your attorney general? Think about it, friends. And yet, we have people that want to turn away or turn over our liberty, our personal protection options to people who have proven themselves not trustworthy. You know, just like the scorpion and the frog. Scorpion sitting on the side of the lake there, and he says, I sure want to get to the other side of that lake. And the frog says, well, you're a scorpion, you'll sting me. And Scorpion says, oh, no, not you. If you're going to do me this favor, take me over across the lake here, or across the pond, I would never sting you. Scorpion talking to the frog. Well, the frog's pretty gullible. He says, well, okay, get on board, you know. So the scorpion gets on the frog's back, and they're swimming along out to get about 15 feet out in the water, and then the scorpion stings the fire out of the frog. The frog turns around and says, I thought you weren't going to sting me. And the scorpion says, well, I'm a scorpion. That's what I do, is sting other things. Think about it, friends. Think about it. These people who have proven themselves over and over and over to be not trustworthy, do we want to turn over our rights to personal protection that was a right before our Constitution was ever written? Do we want to turn that over to them? I don't think so. Right here is a terrific book. There are some other incredible things that this thing's doing. So, friends, if you're in Washington State, we would encourage you to please say no to Initiative 676. For information, I'll give you the We Care address there. It's in Bellevue, Washington, Post Office Box 50270, Bellevue, Washington. Their phone number, area 425-454-4915. Again, area 425-454-4915. Incidentally, this is being promoted by Bill Gates, the billionaire, supposedly the richest man in the world. And, you know, that's funny. Mr. Gates, he's got his own security people. You know, he can afford to hire an army of bodyguards to watch him and his family around the clock. What about you and I? What about us who cannot afford bodyguards? Senator Kennedy, Chucky Schumer, Dianne Feinstein, they all have bodyguards, friends. Guess what? What about us? If you want to see where our modern gun control or gun abolition people get their rules and regulations, here is a wonderful book put out by the Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. This is called Gun Control Gateway to Tyranny, the Nazi Weapons Law, 18 March 1938. Friends, they're queuing. In fact, Senator Dodd, when he was writing the Gun Control Act of 1968, sent over to the Library of Congress and got the Nazi weapons law. And you know, there are places in our federal statutes that read almost word for word of what the Nazis did in Germany. Think about it, friends. Think about it. Because something has got to be done. That's why we're struggling so hard to stay on the air with this project, because television is the most powerful means of communication that has ever been invented, ever. That's why we're trying so hard to stay on the air with our shooting show so we can educate more people. We've been talking about for the last month or so, we've been talking about it longer than that, but we're talking with different groups around the country that are interested in doing a gun-friendly network. That would mean that we could be on more times per week, we could reach more people, we could get in more cable companies around the country, we could get in more TV stations with a gun-friendly television network. Doesn't take that much money to do it. It takes more than we got, but it doesn't take that much money to do it. And we're talking with some folks. Hey friends, we're trying. We are trying. If you would like to help us stay on the air, one, if you have a business, you can join our shooting show support group. Ever how much you got, we can work with it. Anything that's halfway reasonable, we'll try and work with you. We can certainly, your company can advertise on our program, help us stay on the air. You can charge it off your taxes. It won't cost your business anything, but it may help you and all of us retain our gun rights if you support us. Whatever you can send, if you would just like to donate some money to our project, you can by sending to the Shooting Show, 327 Irvin Rowland Road in Dubberly, Louisiana. The zip code is 71024. Our phone number, 318-377-5189. We certainly want to thank everyone who has and is contributing. Hey friends, this has got to be done. There is nowhere else on television that you can get the outright truth about what is happening on gun issues than right here. Maybe if we get a network together where we can buy a block of programming, our program can expand and do more things, be on more times a week. Other shows that would like to be on, people would like to work with us, we can much more effectively get our message out, because that's the key, friends. Remember, we don't have to have 75% of the population. We don't have to do that. We've only got to have 5% that is educated, motivated, and activated on what this is about. It can be done. So many people, I get so aggravated because so many people all over this country have literally given up. And friends, the very fact that we're on today shows that this fight is not over with. Some of the gun owner organizations are doing, Gun Owners of America, doing a good job. We can certainly help each other. There are those groups out there. Heck, I wish Charlton Heston a lot of luck. I wish him a lot of luck on what he's trying to do for the NRA. I hope he can do something. We're certainly in support of anything good that they try and do. So, you know, friends, it's up to us, the American gun owner, because you know what? If we don't stand up now, if we don't, we're going to lose everything. Handguns, rifles, shotguns, everything that goes bang. The United Nations already has plans, blueprints down on how to disarm the United States of America. There are initiatives in other countries, in England, for example, in Australia, in many other countries, to pick them all up, friends. Go house to house and pick them up. Wasn't that long ago that the British people, the British government, was running ads here in the United States papers asking for anything that American citizens could send to the British citizens so they could help defend their country in the event of a Nazi invasion. Hadn't been that long ago, friends, and look what's happened to them now. You know, it's up to us, all of us, you and I. It's not your neighbor down the street. It's not somebody in another city. It's us, you and I, and all those of us who care about our freedom, our liberty, our gun rights. It is up to us. So anyway, we have a great show for you. A couple of news items here I wanted to read to you. One, it looks like Colt Firearms, who, if you remember, they were in bankruptcy here just a very short time ago, a few years ago, and they've been bought out by a strong financial interest. Heck, Colt's going to buy FN, looks like, from the French government. FN owns Browning, Winchester, and a whole bunch of other stuff, plus they make AR-15s. I say Brown owns U.S. Repeating Arms, which makes Winchester rifles and shotguns. So we certainly encourage them to wish them a lot of luck, and just goes to show how things can be turned around. Another little thing that you might want, and I'm reading here from the current issue of American Handgunner, which is Pretty Fair magazine, actually. Remember, we were talking about taggants going in gunpowder. The Clintonians wanted to put taggants as little plastic particles in gunpowder that will essentially put all of us as hand loaders and shooters out of business overnight, literally, and they want to do this. Smokeless powder, in fact, almost none of it has been used in any sort of criminal activity. Listen to this. Now, here's a list of stolen explosives in the 5 years from 1991 to 1995, which figures are available. It says 26,969 pounds of dynamite have been stolen. TNT C4 military explosives, almost a ton, 2,000 pounds that they know about, have been stolen. Primers, 192 pounds. Boosters, other things, 3,800 pounds. Black powder, 586 pounds. Smokeless powder, which goes in our modern ammunition, 74 pounds have been stolen. All right, 1994-95, none was stolen. How about that? detonator cord, 221,609 feet, detonators, 42,713, and grenades that they know about stolen from the military, 357 grenades, hand grenades. Think about that. So, and in those 5 years, 74 pounds of gunpowder. Some of us have that much on hand. You know, friends, that's incredible. Yet these people know what they're up to. They know what it's about. When they're talking about putting taggants in gunpowder, it's to affect us, the shooter. That's what it's about, civilian ownership of firearms.
Stay tuned for more of The Shootin' Show after these important messages.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station. You know, friends, all of us as shooting enthusiasts should be subscribing to Shotgun News, the trading post for anything that shoots. 3 big issues monthly with literally thousands and thousands of firearms bargains. Give them a call, 1-800-345-6923, a very inexpensive subscription price. Again, 1-800-345-6923. Subscribe today.
We do have a great show for you. And, you know, friends, this is our shooting show custom carry gun by the good folks over at Clark Custom Guns. We're going to unload it. Yes, it is unloaded. And a good friend of ours, Bill Lewis, from down in Georgia, sent us a new lubricant. It's called fluid film, and we'll show this to you a little closer in just a minute. But this stuff is made, it is environmentally friendly, has no solvents, and it's made from sheep's wool, has lanolin in it, and it's been used for a number of years, certain military applications. Heck, the shipping industry has used it offshore to protect things on boats, things exposed to salt air, from corrosion and from rust. And come to find out, some of our machine gun friends that own and shoot machine guns a lot have been using this stuff for years. And I tell you what, a lot of us, hunting seasons are coming up. Some of us will be going out in the worst weather. A lot of duck hunters out there, goose hunters. And sometimes they may drop their firearm in water, or maybe their gun, it may not be made of stainless steel. Of course, stainless will rust. It's not really stainless. It will corrode. It just takes a little longer than blued steel. But a lot of folks out there are going to have some really wet guns. Well, this is our shooting show custom carry, and certainly one of the very favorite guns that I have available here on the program. And look at this. Got a bucket of water here. And you know, friends, I am known, people that know me, for taking care of my equipment, taking care. Here we have a bucket of water. Watch this. All right, friends, a lot of us wouldn't do that to our favorite firearms, but you know what? I know, oh my, I tell you, that was a little painful. But you know what? I'm not worried about a doggone thing. Now what I'm going to do, because I had taken the gun apart and treated it thoroughly with our fluid film, and I'll show you something. Now I'm going to clean the water out of the bore just because this is my gun and I don't want to bulge that barrel. Actually, it shouldn't bother a 45, but just to make me feel better, we're going to check it. We know the gun's empty. Got my finger in the action. I'm looking down the barrel. We're okay. We'll run a patch one more time just to clean the bore. But you know, some of you may drop your gun overboard. Your boat or whatever may capsize, or you may somehow or another lose your gun overboard. All right, let's see how it's going to do. Functioning is just perfect, and you know what? Nothing is going to happen to the internals on this gun because I had thoroughly treated with this fluid film. So this is something, we'll have Bill's phone number on how to get some of this stuff. It has fantastic staying power, best stuff I've ever seen. And we want to pass that on to you with a little drill, though that's, of course, an absolute worst case scenario. Your gun goes overboard in the water. But you know what? If you got fluid film on it, it's not going to rust, not going to corrode, certainly not till you can get back and clean it. You don't have to cancel your hunt for that day and go on and clean your bore out of the gun and clean it as best you can, but it's still going to be functional and serviceable, and it's not going to rust like it would with a normal lubricant on it. Now friends, here is an old holster that I dug up. In fact, I had misplaced it, and our air here in Louisiana is very, very humid, and literally this thing is molded just terribly. Well, let's take some of our fluid film. I want to show you just how neat this stuff works, even on leather. It's one of the few things I've ever heard of you could use on so many different things, from squeaks and hinges to you can spray it under your lawnmower, and the wet grass won't stick to the pan on your lawnmower. Pretty remarkable stuff. See, this holster's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. I'm actually ashamed to let one get in that bad a shape, but like I said, it was lost. Found it in some boxes that we went through the other day. So check this out. See what it did, that mold there? I mean, literally just took it off, and it's gonna make this holster look like new again. It actually is. Like I said, look at there. Isn't that amazing? Neat stuff, friends. Neat stuff. And it's going to be, of course, we'll finish cleaning it. But see, that doesn't even look like the same holster we had just a moment ago. And it's going to renew that leather because it has lanolin, remember, in it. And let me tell you what, that is just terrific as far as the time it takes, and you actually get something that's usable again instead of being a piece of junk.
Friends, this is the best lubricant we have ever found, whether you want to use it on your guns or your car or your lawnmower, whatever else, or leather. If you'd like information on this, or like to have some for yourself, just give me a call on my voicemail, 318-682-4218. Again, 318-682-4218. Leave your name and phone number if you'd like to have some of this great stuff. Fluid film, it is neat stuff.
Well, friends, we're going to take a look here today, a brief look, in fact, at the penetration and expansion tests of several different calibers that we would commonly encounter on some water bottles. And a friend of ours who's a shooting enthusiast has a water company, and he's been nice enough to donate some water jugs for our tests today. So let's just take a look and see what we find. You know, friends, a lot of us don't really know what our bullets do when they strike the target. And what we're going to be concerned with here today is more on what defensive ammunition should look like. We did a similar test to this on a different mechanism a while back that really turned out good. So with our good friend Curtis Shipley down at Georgia Arms. So let's take a look at what some of the more popular bullets do in water, actually. We'll start with our 357 Magnum with the best known defensive load probably for the 357, a 125 grain jacketed hollow point, moving along about 1,350 or 1,400 feet per second. Now see what it does on our water bottles. Friends, we destroyed one, of course, went on through two, and the bullet has started to break up. Went through 3, 4, and went into 5. So let's take a look. We'll retrieve our bullets here and take a look at how it turned out. Notice my dog here is just not concerned at all about this, but we are. Now then, here's the 357. This was what was in the 5th water bottle, quite a bit of penetration, but you'll notice it started coming apart on the 2nd bottle. That's why the 125 grain jacketed hollow point is certainly useful for defense, but it is not a very good hunting bullet because of lack of penetration and how the bullet holds up. 5 water bottles. This was, again, the jacket was shed in about number 3, I think, 2 or 3. And this was what was left in the 5th bottle. Now, Blue, if you laying down here cause I don't think shoot this gun. Gunfire doesn't bother him. I don't know. Anyway, let's take our 45 ACP 185 grain jacketed hollow point. Friends, it worked on one pretty good over there. It blew it out of the way. Worked on 2, and guess what? And here's our bullet. Now, explain that, it broke 3, but realize that our 357 went through 5 buckets and broke up. Now our 45 did not. It expanded really well, went through just 2 bottles and broke the wall on 3. So we've got a hole here. And it bounced off and fell out right here. Let's take a closer look. Friends, old Blue didn't even get upset over that. Isn't that amazing? Okay, here's our 45. Tremendous expansion, but our penetration was not that terrific. It went through 2 and actually punctured 3, bounced off, and was laying on the ground next to the target, which a lot of people, for certain defense applications, a 45 with a jacketed hollow point, it is very desirable. So that gives you an idea of its performance. This is similar to some of the best loads out there for the 45 ACP. Okay, friends, what we're going to do now is take arguably the best handgun caliber, the 41 Magnum. And I say arguably because there will be people that argue, and I'm not putting down any other caliber, but the 41 is so good, it'll do everything so very well. Well, let's take a look. We have a 170 grain bullet moving at about 1,400 feet per second. Essentially, 357 Magnum, 125 grain velocities, but with a much bigger bullet. So let's see what it does on the water bottles. It should perform similar to the 357, but it's going to have a lot more power. All right, friends, we have course 1 and 2 just totally destroyed. 3, 4, and it stopped. It actually dented just like the 357, just barely went into 5. So let's retrieve our bullets. Let's see if we got any particles, see how it held up. Retrieve our bullets and take a look. Now, friends, this is the 41 Magnum. This is a 170 grain Sierra bullet, loaded very hot, 1,400 feet per second. And notice it acted a lot like the 357 Magnum because they have similar ballistics and a light bullet, certainly in the 41 chambering. Now, trust me, there's a point to all this. This was in jug number 5, but it started coming apart. Again, this is an explosive bullet, obviously, but it went into 5 water bottles there. And certainly as hunting or for hunting application, we would use a heavier bullet. This is what looks to be a terrific self-defense bullet. And we're going to be working with the 41. We're actually experimenting now on a 41 defensive load, and I think we have some out here today. Let's see what that looks like.
Stay tuned for more of the Shootin' Show after these important messages.
Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
Friends, here it is, great Georgia Arms ammunition. Notice these ballistic tip nozzler bullets in this Georgia Arms ammunition. You see, this is equivalent to a box of 20 for only $7.95. Now, friends, that is a terrific price for essentially custom-loaded ammunition. Of course, for the plain full metal jacket, it is much less expensive. Here's another tremendous bag of Georgia Arms ammunition, 7mm Remington Magnum, 20 rounds, only $17.95, loaded with these premium Nosler ballistic tips. I tell you, this is custom ammunition at a discount price. Tell you what, friends, the good people at Georgia Arms do understand what's going on in this country. They understand how important our gun rights are, and they're supporting us on this project. The good news is you can get absolutely superior ammunition at discount prices, whether you have a handgun or a rifle. If you want to take that big hunt, you can afford to practice with your rifle as well as use that same ammunition on the hunt because they are so reasonably priced. These are some of the nicest people we have ever met in this business, bar none, and they're down in beautiful Villa Rica, Georgia. So please, friends, if you would, you can get a free catalog with a free phone call. That's as good as the deal gets. A free catalog, free phone call, 1-800-624-6861. Again, Georgia Arms, 1-800-624-6861. And please tell them you saw it here on our shooting show.
Well, Blue, it's time you woke up. I'm out here shooting, and he's going to sleep. Anyway, what we have here is our 41 Magnum, but this is a prototype defensive load or personal defense load for the 41 Magnum. We're experimenting with several bullet weights. This is that same 170 grain Sierra bullet that came apart at 1,400 feet per second. And let's see what it does at about 1,150 feet per second on these water bottles. Okay, friends, it worked over the first jug there, and
the second jug, 3, and 4. Okay, so it didn't have as much penetration as the full charge load. Now friends, this is what came out of bottle 4. Now it did shed some of the bullet there, but it expanded really well, and it had quite a bit more penetration than the 45 ACP, but it also held up well. I'm thinking this would be a superior personal defense bullet. It is much easier to shoot, in fact, than the full charge load. It is super accurate, and this is a project we're working on. So this is the 41 personal defense loading, and it still has as much or more energy than the best 357 Magnums you're going to run across, certainly more than the 125 grain jacketed hollow point, a much milder load. And I will be leading up to this probably on the next program, but the 41 does everything that the 357 Magnum was originally said to do in its promo that it never did, actually. But the 41 is really an ideal cartridge. We'll be looking at more on that later. Now friends, I moved old Blue back there. Since we're here, just for fun, let's shoot the 50 Action Express 325 grain bullet, 1,350 or so feet per second, 1,325, 1,350. And heck, let's see what it does, that big jacketed hollow point. Let's see how it does shooting a spear factory loading. And moved old Blue back because muzzle blast of this thing's pretty severe, and we certainly don't want to hurt his ears. Gunfire doesn't really bother him, but this is a pretty big boomer. Let's see what it does on our water bottles. Friends, that's pretty tough on the first 2, and look, it literally blew the bottom out of the first one. But let's see, that's 1, 2, here we go, 3, 4, and look here. There's a bullet on the ground. It came out the bottom of 4. There it is. Sure enough, did not go into 5. It might have punctured, but that old big bullet hitting that water expanded so rapidly. Let's take a closer look at it. Well, friends, here's the 50 Action Express cartridge, huge thing, and here's that bullet. It went through 4 water bottles. It angled slightly. It was just sitting there on top of the ground, though. I don't know if it bounced off that 5th jug. So see that big hollow point? Remember, water is incompressible, and water's pretty tough at high velocity, certainly on these expanding type bullets. And yeah, it lost some of the bullet, but this is the reason for penetration we do not use the hollow point bullets. Well, let's try one more thing while we're here. Now friends, this is a solid, hard cast lead bullet for the 45 ACP. This is a 200 grain bullet that we shoot a lot of in out here target practicing. It's good for match type competition, not a barn burner by any stretch of the imagination. It's running about 875 to 900 feet per second, a really nice target bullet. And see the difference in the hollow point here. I want to show you why we don't use a soft nose or a solid bullet like this for personal defense or for police work or certainly for in-home defensive use. And let's take a look why. We're going to shoot this 45 ACP bullet running along at moderate velocity into the water jugs, and let's see what happens. Okay, friends, went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and broke 9. We had 11 of them. And there's our bullet. Now friends, here's our 45 ACP, the 200 grain bullet from the 8th water bottle that actually dented number 9. And this is our jacketed hollow point we shot earlier. So this had between 3 and 4 times as much penetration as our jacketed hollow point. For defense, these are no-no. This is a much, much better option for defense because it has more penetration than even the Magnum loads. It may go through a wall or something and hit someone else or injure something else, so this is a no-no for self-defense. The jacketed hollow points are much, much more desirable, certainly for defense. Well, friends, we thought we'd show you that. That gives you some idea of what various bullets will do. We'll be talking more about the 41 Magnum in coming weeks. But let me show you something. Our good friends at Georgia Arms make the only factory available 45 auto rim cartridge that I'm aware of. A lot of us really enjoy shooting the 45 revolvers, 45 ACP revolvers, and they load, of course, with a full moon clip or with half moon clips. Let's take a closer look, in fact. Now, friends, we're used to seeing this, the full moon clip type arrangement, seeing them loaded like so through our gun cam here. There we go. Here's a little clip that is unloaded. This is a clip, not a magazine. So it's fine to load them and unload them all at one time, but let's suppose we don't want to do that. Maybe we want to load 1 or 2. Well, here's the 45 auto rim cartridge, and here's, of course, the standard 45 ACP. Now look, on the auto rim you have a rim there that can be ejected, and whereas the 45 ACP cannot, has to be picked out or pushed out with a pencil or a cleaning rod or something. But the 45 auto rim works with the ejector. So Georgia Arms, like I said, offers the only, you can see the difference in rim size here. Let me get it a little better where you can see it through our gun cam. And you can see the auto rim has a real rim. It's the equivalent of the 45 ACP, but it's for use in these type revolvers. Georgia Arms has the only factory auto rim ammunition I'm aware of it. You know what else, friends? Hunting season's coming up. Whatever type of gun or ammunition you need to call Georgia Arms. You can get a free catalog with a free phone call, and it's 1-800-624-6861. Again, 1-800-624-6861. Remember, they have all the cowboy calibers and the best rifle ammunition we've ever had the pleasure to shoot. So give them a call today, and please tell them that you saw it here on our program.
Stay tuned for more of the Shootin' Show after these important messages.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station. Now, friends, here it is. This is the great 1919 Browning converted to semi-automatic from the good people at NWI. This is your chance to own a real piece of history. They're very collectible. They're also a lot of fun to own and shoot, and very reasonably priced, certainly for what you get. The 1919 Browning is from NWI. That phone number, area 503-429-5001. They also have the ammunition special still going on. 30-06 ammunition, only 18 cents a round, surplus in the belt. So give them a call today, NWI, for the great 1919 Browning conversion. Also remember, they have the A6 conversion with the shoulder stock and the bipod. But these are tremendous pieces of history, also great shooters. So give them a call today, the 1919 Browning from NWI, area 503-429-5001.
And hold the phone, stop the presses, friends. They now are making the 50 Browning available, and just picture the gun you're looking at here, just about twice as big with that gigantic 50 Browning cartridge. Trust me on this one, friends. These guns will not be available forever. If the Clintonians have their way, they'd sure like to take them away right now. But you still can get them, and realize for every gun that NWI sells on our program, they will donate an extra $300 toward keeping us on the air. So if you're interested in the 1919 Brownings, the A4 or A6, or the new 50 Browning semi-automatic conversion, give them a call, area 503-429-5001. You know, friends, we're very fortunate here in northwest Louisiana to be near one of the great custom gun shops in the entire United States. Of course, we're talking about Clark Custom Guns, where you can get all sorts of work done on your fine semi-automatics or revolvers. And don't forget their 22 rifles based on the Ruger 1022. All these things are available in their catalog. You can take a look at them, get a price. You can call Clark Custom Guns, area 318-949-9884. Again, area 318-949-9884, and get their entire list of products. Give them a call today, and please tell them you heard it here on our program.
The anniversary of Waco and Oklahoma
Friends, you know,
City,
we're always trying to show you something different, and on today's program, at this portion, we are proud to feature Larry Pratt debating some of the real anti-gun people. This is a program that appeared recently on CNN, and we're very pleased to show you part of this today. And Larry, of course, does a great job of defending our position as gun owners and free citizens. Let's see what it looks like.
Good evening and welcome to Crossfire. 2 years ago, the Oklahoma City bombing massacre horrified Americans. With the arrest of Timothy McVeigh, a barrage of press and political attacks was unleashed on the American right wing, on Rush Limbaugh, on Newt Gingrich, but especially on the militias. These people, we were told, created the anti-government climate of hatred that led directly to the mass murder in Oklahoma City. Tonight, second thoughts. Was an injustice done to Rush Limbaugh and Newt Gingrich? Are they owed an apology? And are the militias really the stormtroopers of some right-wing conspiracy, or the convenient scapegoats of American liberals who are indulging their own form of McCarthyism? Jerry?
Let's find out. Mr. Pratt, a report just released by the Southern Poverty Law Center says that the number of those groups are increasing significantly, 6% growth over the past year, that the people who are involved in the militias are people who are anti-government, they are involved with criminal behavior, much of it violent, that they're going to want to impose their own agenda on America. Do we as Americans have reason to be concerned about this?
Certainly not because of anything the Southern Poverty Law Center has said. As Alexander Cockburn, who writes frequently for The Nation magazine, which I think you'll agree is not of the right, has called Morris Dees and his Southern Poverty Law Center looking at the militia issue as if it were a cash cow, that he's actually the Jim and Tammy Baker of the civil rights movement. And he got into this Klan business as a way of making money. Last period of time they looked at, he raised $10 million that he never even spent. $15 million in, $5 million out.
Okay, but let's get to the question. I hate to interrupt, but can we get to the question? The question is, there are these militia groups. The number of members is increasing. They are dedicated to violent behavior and anti-government behavior. Why should Americans not be worried about it? There's a proliferation. You may not like the fellow who did the report, but the report is an indication of what's going on throughout the country.
But you see, if you predicate your question on a report that is likely to be almost entirely fallacious, this is the guy that identified the Mormon Militia Battalion as one of these militia groups. It's an historical group. They own one gun, a musket, an 1837 musket.
There's also a guy who is now currently in the Republic of Texas movement. He's down in Texas. His name is Richard McLaren, who is holed up in his embassy. He claims to have 140,000 to 200,000 people who are fully armed, and he says that he is. What do you say? He says there's going to be an all-out war with Texas. It's just around the corner. Again,
do you expect us to believe that any more than we believe Morris Dees?
This is not Morris Dees. This is in the newspapers. This is in
it's in the newspapers. I'm
Washington. Well, it may make it's easy to make light of this stuff. Wait a minute. What happens is if you make a joke out of these things, that's fine, except we're talking about violent behavior. We're talking about people who are using bombs and guns and blowing up buildings.
Well,
and
most of
things
them
like
are
that.
using hot words, and that's...
That makes light of
Let's
it.
put it in perspective. Brian, last year, I believe, as usual, something like 20,000 murders were committed in the United States, scores of thousands of forcible rapes on women, and hundreds of thousands of armed robberies. How many of those did the militia commit?
Well, I can tell you they've assassinated police officers. They've been caught with biological toxins and chemicals that are capable of killing thousands of people. They've also threatened people throughout the United States and committed acts of terrorism. Here, look at this. Look at this, Pat. This is a map here. There's more things that we can fit on the map. And you know, I'd like to ask Mr. Pratt, picking on my old boss.
Wait till I ask you a couple of questions, Brian.
All right, Pat, but let me just ask Mr. Pratt something. You know, he's picking on my old boss, Morris Dees, who's a big hero of mine. I'd like to ask Mr. Pratt why he's hanging out so much with these white supremacists where he's advocating armed civilian militias, which are illegal.
Mr. Pratt will answer that when we get back to you. Let's talk about one of the most famous militias, the Michigan militia with Mark of Michigan. How many of the crimes committed in Michigan last year, you all are statisticians, you know all this stuff, how many of the murders, rapes, and robberies in Detroit and Michigan last year were committed by members of the Michigan militia?
Pat, how many people have blown up the...
None, 1, 2, 100, 1,000.
Pat, it's terrorism, my friend. That's why even though we don't have...
How many acts of terrorism were committed by the Michigan militia?
By the Michigan militia? We're talking about different things here. Let's get definitions down, first of all, Pat. The anti-government movement, the vast majority of people in this movement are peaceful. However, there is a dark underbelly, this fringe of this movement that is committing acts of violence, that are stabbing people, that are murdering people.
Let me agree with you. Let me agree with you on some things. Look, I don't doubt that there are people of a far-right persuasion who are dangerous, ought to be watched and prosecuted and punished when they do wrong. I want you to put this in some perspective. We have 1 million people. Hold it. We got 1 million people in federal penitentiaries. I want to know how many members of them, they're there for rape, armed robbery, murder, crimes like that. How many are members of militias?
Pat, that question misses the point. These are acts of terrorism. How many people blew up the World Trade Center? Not that many, but look at the effect it's had on the national psyche.
Were they militia? Were they militia?
Pat, we have tons of people who are anti-government extremists who have assassinated... Pat, let me...
Brian, you got to give me some militia guys.
Pat, I will. You want me to give you people? I'll give you people. Larry Harris, who's with Aryan Nation, was caught with bubonic plague. What about the Minnesota Patriots, who are going to poison government officials with ricin? What about the people that assassinated a sergeant in Alabama?
Okay, well, I'm going to let you respond to the question that you were asked just now.
Well, again, consider the source, Morris Dees, who has been putting a spin on anybody who disagrees with him on the right to keep and bear arms.
Larry, you got to answer the question.
You asked me a question.
No, you didn't. You give me the same answer all the time.
You gave the other gentleman a few seconds to get to his point. Let me do the same. Back in the 70s, Morris Dees had set up a ultimately a failed organization dedicated to ending the right to keep and bear arms. And then he was George McGovern's campaign finance director. Now, this is the guy
You're missing the point of the show, Larry.
No, I don't think so at all, Darylene.
The point of the show is to just... No, you're not getting to either one of them. You're not getting to either one. So let me try with another one.
I've been accused of cavorting and consorting with known racists. Well,
okay, now we're getting to why.
This charge from Mr. Dees is a nicely selected little factoid that I've been on the same platform with people with whom I disagree very much. But I'll tell you something. They have more in common with Morris Dees than they have with me. Because, listen, because...
we'll have to get Mr. Morris Dees here one day.
Whoa, wait a minute. Let me finish answering the question. Morris Dees and I both agree that racism is bad, but Morris Dees is a big government advocate, and so are the neo-Nazis. That's what Nazis are, is socialists.
You would know you shared the stage with Richard Butler from Aryan Nation. You shared the stage with Louis Beam.
And these are bad actors. Nobody's arguing that. But you don't seem to be interested at all in the fact that this is a guy right here that has gone to the slums of Mexico to work in church work, that has a church where one of the pastors is African-American.
I don't doubt that you're a good
These
person,
details
Larry.
kind of crumble the picture that you're trying to portray.
Larry,
you guys are spin masters and you're anti-gun to the core.
And Larry, why did you rail against the 14th Amendment, which guaranteed equal rights to black citizens? Why did you rail against against that in front of a group of white supremacists. You've never explained that,
Well,
Alex.
Okay, go ahead.
As a matter of fact, the 14th Amendment is the reason why states have to respect the individual right to keep and bear arms. It was the 14th Amendment, when it was debated on the floor of the Senate and the House, that was explicitly pointed to as the way the Second Amendment was going to keep blacks from being disarmed.
All right, Brian, let me get to a question to you now.
Sure, Pat.
Again, let's put it in perspective. That's what I'm trying to do when I ask about the extent and depth and range of the problem of violence from militias. Now, again, we've got about 1 million Americans who are behind bars. Now, according to my statistics, 25% of the federal prisoners are illegal aliens, and 18% of the state prisoners are. That would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 200,000 criminals behind bars who are illegal aliens. Now, that's a problem. I want to know how many are members of militia so we can know how big a problem we've got, and you guys got the number, and please give them to me.
I would say we're talking about probably a couple of hundred, but you're missing the point, Pat. Terrorism is something that's bigger than mere numbers. If somebody steals my wallet or my car stereo, that's a lot different than blowing up a federal building, Pat. Come on.
All right, I agree with you. Last year was 1996. How many acts of terrorism were the militias engaged in that we know about?
Look, over the last 3 years, our center has tracked about 100 acts of terrorism. The 60 that I've classified so far, 22% involved explosives. We're talking about a more threatening and lethal type of thing,
All right,
and more
give me an
socially
example.
disruptive.
Give me an example of the worst one last year by the militia.
Well, I can give you one. They tried to blow up my old office at Southern Poverty Law Center. How about that? How about one where there was a plot to blow up a bomb at a courthouse in Texas? How about another one?
Did they blow it up?
No, it was thwarted. What about?
You mean we got none?
That's Pat, not true. We've got tons of them. What about cases where there was a shootout just recently between two anti-government extremists and police over in Ohio?
We got a shootout. We got hundreds of shootouts right here in this town.
Maybe I can, Pat.
They're
People really
nightly.
dying,
Come
too.
on, come on over.
In Arizona last year in December, Gary Bauer pleaded guilty to conspiring making explosives, and he wanted to teach
Gary
others to
Bauer?
blow up. Not the same Gary Bauer, different Gary Bauer. In Georgia, another person was charged with conspiracy to possess explosive devices. I mean, it goes on and on and on with these things, Pat. So these people were picked up before they were successful.
Look, I agree with you.
Timothy McVeigh was successful.
Let me agree. First, Timothy McVeigh is not militia, but secondly, I'll agree there's some very bad actors. But what we want to do is try to put it in some perspective. You got 1 million people in prison. You got 20,000 murders. Are these guys responsible for 1,000 or 1 or none or what?
Pat, what you're saying is that
Well, friends, we hope you've enjoyed our program today. Our studio facility is different from what we're used to, but we think we got a good program. We certainly appreciate the efforts of the studio personnel. From seeing what you just saw with Larry Pratt on Crossfire, you can tell that the anti-gun people, the anti-liberty people cannot be reasoned with. The only way they can be dealt with is to be defeated. We have to defeat them. If you want to help this project, if you want to help us stay on the air, and we certainly desperately need your help, please send whatever you can to the Shooting Show, 327 Irvin Rowland Road in Dubberly, Louisiana. That zip code is 71024. Our phone number, area 318-377-5189. I do want to recognize our Shooting Show support group, Custom Leatherwork and Saddlery in Denham Springs, Louisiana. That phone number, area 504-667-9225 for all sorts of custom leather work. Friends, please watch our gospel show on Sunday morning on Satellite G4 Channel 14. From 10 to 10:30 Eastern Time. Also, our radio show on the American Freedom Network, GE1 Channel 7, 5.8 audio from noon till 2 o'clock on Sundays. We hope we'll see you on the next show.